Just like it shouldn't be the state telling women what they can do with their bodies. It shouldn't be the state telling transgender people what they can do with their bodies.
Well, what about
either.
children? No, but the children is the main question, and that's
families, doctors.
Nobody
These are
out there
complicated
is
issues.
saying that
I don't think that Donald Trump. Yes,
well,
actually
okay,
they are.
Maybe Matt Walsh and a few fringe characters.
But even Trump now, you know, one of his first executive orders he says he's going to sign is making sure that, you know, all federal government forms just reflect male, female, and it's your biological sex. What I'm saying is that's not just about kids. That's about saying basically the message there, and I don't think it's like all that important, but the message there is that trans people are not real. They don't exist.
No, it's that your biological sex is assigned at birth. Transgender people, what do the trans propagandists always tell us? Transgender people have existed forever. Well, you existed whenever the male-female form was on there. Is it so important for you to have a form that says,
I just
like,
said it's not actually that.
They're the crazy people.
It's not.
Hey, everybody. This is Troy over at Uncomfortable Truths. Thanks for checking me out. So today we've got to talk about our boy Saagar Enjeti because he absolutely humiliates Krystal Ball over their breaking points. Now, he gives her a complete thrashing when they are talking about the transgender issue. Take a look.
I just disagree with that completely. I mean, the idea that trans people are the least powerful, I mean, they're the most powerful. They've ruled our politics for years. I mean, these people are forcing their fringe ideology on all of us. That's tyranny.
Look at their income. Look at their health outcomes. Look at their life expectancy. Look at their suicide rates. Like, that's a preposterous view of the world.
Well, first of all, a lot of those stats around that population changes because the population has dramatically increased, and there's quite a lot of people who are either autistic or mentally ill who are somehow convinced that they're trans. So that's number one. So actually, I'm very curious to see how the rates go whenever we actually get this stuff out of schools. My prediction, it'll be just like anorexia. It'll be a social contagion phenomenon. It's going to plunge, which means it was all bullshit and fake in the first place. But second is that if you look at this whole this transgender people under the bus, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, is it really quote unquote throwing people under the bus to say that you biologically, however sex you're born in, that's the league of sports that you have to play? Like, how is that throwing people under the bus?
Because you know what, putting how you feel about the issue aside, because this is my point. I don't give a shit about the issue. I genuinely don't. I don't think it's important at all.
All right, so you got Saagar landing one point after another, and Krystal completely disregarding him. He asks, well, what about mentally ill people who are getting caught up in the social contagion? What about the fact that some of these people are likely going to be autistic? What about the fact that we have biological males competing in female sports? Now, Krystal acts like she's going to answer, and she says, because, well, and then it dawns on her. She actually doesn't have a good answer for any of the points that he brought up. So instead, she just says, oh, yeah, I don't even really care about this issue. I don't think it's that big of a deal at all. Why are we bringing it up? Why do Republicans keep talking about it? Look, you know, if you're being honest, that it is not Republicans that have been going out bringing up the transgender issue over and over and over again. It's not Republicans who are out there saying we need to have 500 different pronouns on government official papers. If you think that the government exists in order to affirm your personal identity, then you have a very unhealthy relationship with the government because you are literally trying to get it to affirm yourself. That is crazy. You don't need the government to affirm you. And if you do, then you have way bigger problems than we can deal with. And you need to talk to a mental health professional. That's where we're at on this issue. Now, there are no good responses coming from Krystal, so she just completely disregards what he's saying, and then she goes and tries to change the subject. But he brings it right back around and says, no, you need to actually address these things.
Democrats basically completely changed their views on gender after Obergefell and tried to shove it down the mouths of American citizens. Dominated cultural elites have tried to normalize this transgender ideology, legalize it in terms of plugging little children full of castration drugs and puberty blockers, and then they say that it's a canard. It's not a canard. Like, thousands of children actually have been chemically castrated in this country. That is crazy.
So here's an uncomfortable truth. According to the Williams Institute, 1.4% of children identify as being trans. However, only 0.5% of adults identify as being trans. Do you understand what that means? That means almost 2 out of 3 people who identify as trans as children go on to not identify as trans as adults. Now, this may be uncomfortable for people on the left, but that is the reality.
Now, is it the number one issue? No. But clearly, a lot of people are very concerned about it. And I think, at this point, there is a bit of a mandate on the issue because it's one of those where it gets to the fact that multiracial groups, men, women, young, etc., do feel as if these issues have more of an importance in the Democratic mind. And
So here's where we're at with Democrats right now. They refuse to address inflation because they're too busy packing the country full of illegal immigrants before Biden leaves office. And meanwhile, they've completely just given up on actually protecting children, which is really disgusting when you think that we know that what's going on with children right now is going to have a huge impact in their life decades down the road. Lots of these kids who are going through these transitions before they're old enough to decide that they can get a tattoo, before they can even get their nose pierced without their parents' permission. But no, we're not allowed to ask any questions. And if you don't accept this framework on its face, if you question it even a little bit, you get crazy people on the left making arguments like this.
I think there are a lot of families out there who don't believe boys should play girls' sports.
They're not boys. I'm not going to listen to transphobia at this table. I am not going to listen to you call a trans girl a boy.
Are you going to allow me to finish my explanation?
When you use a word that's a slur, I'm going to interrupt. That's not how it is. They're not boys. They're not boys. They're not playing girls' softball. I'm not going to sit there and listen to that.
Because
So what that old man did is exactly what all leftists do when pressed on this issue. They just start making declarations that you're transphobic. I am not going to sit here and listen to this. And then they just shout over you so that you don't get a chance to talk. Because if you do actually get a chance to talk and you actually get to make your case, they don't really have much of a response, which is exactly what happened here.
So the way regular people interpret it,
that's not
which is why
regular
those
people.
ads were
That's not regular people. There's no consensus that these are actually boys. This whole thing about trans girls is a canard. We're talking about a tiny, tiny sliver of the population.
That may be the
and
case,
we're using
but
that
my point in
to
terms
take
of
away
its
health care from
effectiveness.
thousands of people.
hold on, just get to your point.
My point in terms of its effectiveness, regular people with children look at these things and they say, you know what, this is a bit too far. I do not agree with this. I don't like this. I think Democrats are going way too much to the left on social issues. They're uncomfortable with it. A lot of people believe that. A lot of families believe that. You may disagree with that reality, but that's why Republicans kept running those ads over and over and over again, because they saw the metrics suggested that they were working.
In those ads.
All right, guys. So even after Trump's election, you see the mainstream liberal media is still trying to shove their social agenda down everybody else's throat. And this has bled down into the independent media outlets like Breaking Points, where you have leftists like Krystal Ball who are now getting beat so badly by conservative arguments that they're completely running away from the issue and saying, yeah, well, I don't even think it's that big of a deal. I don't think this is the main thing we should be focusing on. Pretending as if this social agenda isn't what they've been running on for years. They've been running on a social agenda over economics, over peace around the world, and over actually taking care of Americans for decades at this point. And now they just want to pretend like that isn't what's happening. But we're not going to let them. All right, guys, that's all I have on this one. Do me a favor, hit like and subscribe, and share the uncomfortable truths. Take care, everybody.